Good morning. Well, or good evening, or good night, wherever you are in the world. Um, I'm here to discuss something very serious. I know I've been ranting about cuties for the past few days, and this kind of segues into something else that's happening in my local area that is a further trigger for me, but kind of ties into the same thing. So, just basically the response to cuties and the fact that it's been defended by anybody is mind-boggling to me, and now we have a local situation going on when there was a gentleman that was accused or actually charged with sexual assault, and we actually have people in the community that are defending him or coming up with this conspiracy theory thinking he was falsely charged for um, various reasons. I'm just I'm just losing faith in society right now because I just can't believe that it's 2020 and our default setting when it comes to sexual assault is to victim blame. Still, like, have we not learned enough? Is the awareness so low that we're still doing this? And we wonder why sexual assault in any form, whether it be rape, molestation, what have you, is the most underreported crime in history. We wonder why some victims, many victims, never report this crime. We wonder why many victims take years to get up the courage to report this crime. We wonder. I realize that people like to defend their heroes, sadly, in today's culture. There's so many double standards, but if one of your heroes is accused of doing such a crime, the masses flock to defend them without any details, without any further information. If it's a social justice warrior being accused of sexual assault, you're going to flock to defend them. If it's your pastor in your local church accused of sexual assault, you're going to flock to defend them. If it's a local politician that everyone loves and worships, you're going to flock to defend them. Hey, if it's your favorite uncle that's being accused of sexual assault, you're going to flock to defend them. If it's your favorite teacher, at the local elementary school that's being accused of sexual assault, you're going to flock to defend them. If it's your favorite basketball coach that's associated with, all these local programs, you're going to flock to defend them. If it's someone that, takes in all these foster children because they're just a wonderful foster parent and does all these great things in the community, you're going to flock to defend them. I mean, there's just, whatever the case is. Whatever the case is. Of course, if it's not a local hero, you're just ready. You're ready to just pounce on them as soon as the accusation comes out. So it really just depends on who the person that's being accused is, right? So many double standards. But what's mind-boggling to me is when you look at studies of how many false rape accusations there are, it's very low. Okay, we're talking about, the studies I've looked at range between 3 and 0.59%. So if the vast majority of rapes that are reported are not false allegations, why do we automatically default to victim blaming or assuming the victim's not telling the truth, therefore discouraging people to report and causing this vicious cycle? And then wondering why people take 6 years to report, 10 years to report, 25 years to report, never report. What are we doing? I just don't understand. I mean, how do we stop this? How do we stop this? So what happens? What happens when a person is sexually assaulted? First of all, you go through trauma. You go through trauma. Everyone reacts differently. Everyone reacts differently. Some people dissociate. Some people block the event out completely, and it doesn't resurface for years. So maybe they don't go to the hospital the next day because they completely disassociate themselves from the event. And then something happens years down the line and it triggers that memory, and they're faced with it. And all the memories start flooding back. Everyone has a different trauma response. You cannot put everyone in the same category. You cannot. The brain has a way of protecting you. That's what it does. So however it responds to the trauma, I mean, you can't really control it. If it decides to shut down and block out that memory, whatever that traumatic memory is, you can't control that. And if it decides to resurface 5 years down the line, 10 years down the line, 20 years down the line, you have no control over that. Should you be restricted from reporting then? Now, there might be statutes of limitations that vary from state to state, but doesn't mean it didn't happen. Doesn't mean it didn't happen and you're not telling the truth. Ideally, you do want to report the next day. If you can bear to peel yourself off the floor and take yourself to the hospital and face skeptical police officers interrogating you like you committed the crime, and people probing your body for evidence when you've already been violated and you're being violated again at the hospital. Do you know what a rape victim or a molestation victim goes through? If you haven't been through it? Why do we re-victimize the victims? And then we wonder why they don't report. Really start to think about this. The lack of empathy in this world is scary. So anyway, back to my trauma response. The person goes through trauma. That's going to affect them for, they might go through acute trauma that might affect them. There's no way to even tell how long it's going to affect them. It could affect them indefinitely, to be honest. But you go through so many different emotions when you are sexually violated. You go through actual guilt and shame. You self-blame. You feel like somehow you brought this upon yourself. So then you have to build up the courage to go tell someone because you're beating yourself up. Like, what did I do to bring this onto myself? And why do you do that? Well, it must be because society does it. So you got to go through the first phase of beating yourself up to turn around and have society beat you up on the second phase. Or you have to think about, okay, what if this does make it to court? Then you're going to have to go through it again. You're just constantly getting re-victimized. You actually have fear of retaliation. Okay, so say, for instance, you report a rape and your rapist is still running around out there. Let's say the police don't believe you. Let's say they don't arrest him. What if you fear for your life? What if you fear for him coming back and raping you again, maybe even killing you? Those are real valid fears. This is why people don't report. Why is this hard to understand? I remember this one case where this girl was literally raped and kidnapped. I want to say this happened in Florida by a serial killer. And she escaped. She is the only person, the only survivor of this serial killer. And she was interrogated and no one believed her. She was interrogated as if she committed the crime. So she had to go through this traumatic experience. She runs to the police for refuge, and they just re-traumatized her. Come to find out, she's the one that ended up helping them capture this guy and end his killing spree. But the initial response for these investigators was to not believe her story and basically treat her like the criminal. This is what happens to rape victims. Now, when you're dealing with a child, that person's too young to even understand what's happening to them. 9 times out of 10, they don't even know they're supposed to report it. Now, let's say they're in a foster care situation. They've already been traumatized by the system. They've already been abandoned by the parents. They have this going on. They've already been bounced from foster home to foster home to foster home. They're getting victimized in a foster care situation. What are they going to do? There's so many layers to this and so many possibilities. And what do we do when a victim finally gets the courage to come forth? Automatically assume they're not telling the truth when that's only in 3 to 5.9% cases. Allegedly. Or cases that can't be absolutely proven. The vast majority of cases are not false accusations, but we automatically default to that as a society. Why? Because you want to defend your heroes. What about the victim? Who's defending them? Who? We need to shift this perspective. We need to provide more victim support. And I'm tired of it. I'm just putting this out there to raise awareness. I don't even know what else to say about it. I'm just really disgusted with humankind right now. But let's get the conversation started and let's try to shift our perspective and stop protecting these predators. Now, I'm not saying you have to, I do understand there's a judicial process. I do understand you're innocent until proven guilty, but stop victim blaming. Stop it. Provide support to those victims. Show them that it's safe to come forward with their accusations. Then let the courts do their job. I'm not saying we live in the most just world, but stop running these victims into the shadows. Stop leaving them to deal with their trauma by themselves. Creating, this world full, you know how many people have been sexually abused that haven't even come forward. This needs to stop. Stop it. That's all I have to say for now. I'm sure I'll be back with more information on this topic. I'm a little upset, but I had to get that off my chest. I want you guys to try to just understand the other side of it. Stop jumping to people's defense just because they happen to be your hero. Just really think about the victim, please. You don't have to rush to, assuming that the person's guilty. Let the court do its job, but think about the victim. Think about it. Think about them, please. Thank you. That's all I have to say for now. I'll be back with more later, and you have a wonderful day.